you're all very welcome to the Books at One at the Yard for a poetry and music evening. And first of all, you're very welcome. And we're particularly delighted to welcome Joan McBreen and Deanie Rowan Blank. But before that, before I introduce those, we're delighted to have some live music all the way from Nicaragua, from Jairo Gonzalez. And Jairo will introduce what he's going to play to start off the evening.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. This song is written for Agustin Lara and was famous because it was in the film of Tacones Lejanos, ¿no? De Almodóvar. Piensa en mí. Tienes un hondo penar, piensa en mí. Si tienes ganas de llorar, piensa en mí. Ya ves que venero tu imagen divina, tu párvula boca que siendo tan niño me enseñó a besar. Si tienes un hondo penar, piensa en mí. Si tienes ganas de llorar, piensa en mí. Ya ves que venero tu imagen divina, tu párvula boca que siendo tan niña me enseñó a pecar. Piensa en mí cuando sufras, cuando llores, también piensa en mí. Cuando quieras quitarme la vida, no la quiero para nada me sirve sin ti. Piensa en mí cuando sufras, cuando llores, también piensa en mí. Cuando quieras quitarme la vida, no la quiero para nada me sirve sin ti. Gracias. Thank you.
It's absolutely lovely, Jairo. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you later on, very shortly. Our friend Joan McBreen, poet Joan McBreen, is going to introduce her friend Deanie Blank for us now.
Before I speak about Deanie, and introduce her work and herself. I'd just like to say a very heartfelt thanks to Mary and Vincent for all the hard work over the last number of years that they've given all of us here in Letterfrack and Ranvile and Clifton and further afield, for having given us this beautiful, beautiful space. And I've never actually been at a gathering and a reading in this particular area of the enterprise, but it is really beautiful. And I actually think that because our audience tonight is intimate, it makes it even better. So onwards we go with Deanie and I, with Deanie and myself. We both think it was 1998 that we first met in Sligo, which is my home ground. I was born and raised in Sligo, and seed, breed and generation of my family from the 8th County. And Deanie arrived having been awarded the Pierce Loughnane wonderful Leith Summer School scholarship. And she was with her, sadly no longer with Deanie or with any of us. She was with her husband Jerry, who was a medical doctor, and we had great fun. The fun centred then around the Glasshouse Hotel, and it was still in the years when people could drink themselves to any hour in the morning, and we sang and danced and fought with one another as we got drunker as to who was going to have the stage next. Anyway, that's the preamble. Very, very, very happy and delighted to have Deanie and her niece Diana, who lives in Toronto, here with us, and from here they both go on to Westport tomorrow, where Deanie will have another reading with the poet, the Mayo poet Jean Tooming, and she will meet with Geraldine Mitchell, who read with you, Eamon, yesterday, and I was delighted to hear that the reading was fantastic. Deanie took to the pen, as our friend Des Kavanagh would say, who was in his first professional life. He was an orthodontist. He was best friends with Seamus Heaney from childhood. And Des would say, at one point, I put down the drill and picked up the quill. So he became a poet, also published by Vincent and Mary. Anyway, Deanie was then with her husband, Joe, who died not a week ago, 2 years ago.
That was Jerry died too.
That was, sorry, Jerry. I've got confused because she has explained to me, I thought she actually had 3 husbands, and I was saying, well, that was very well done. But she then explained to me that, well, she had given one of the husbands in the book another name.
2 of them, actually.
2 of them
to protect the innocent.
To sort of protect their innocence. And Jerry developed Parkinson's, is that correct?
Joe had the Parkinson's.
Oh, sorry. You see the confusion she's caused now by these names that she's put into the book to protect them? Anyway, we'll get the drift. I met Deanie's sister, Susan, and just to give you a little bit of the background about Deanie before she took to the pen. She is a retired public health nurse, a clinical director of a mental health centre. Any room for those of us who suffer in that area any longer?
I can give you a price.
Okay, gosh, that'd be great. She was a national consultant with the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Mental Health Care. Now, to her poetry. Awards and publications in major journals, including the University of Nebraska, Irish edition of Prairie Schooner, Eamon, I gather, very, very famous magazine in the United States. And a selection of her long poem on Cuchulainn will appear in the next edition. Now, when on a subsequent visit to Sligo, Deanie had the Long Cuchulainn poem in draft, and she gave it to me to attempt to proofread and to give it my tuppence halfpenny. And the usual thing came up, and we were just talking about it before we all gathered. No matter how illustrious the Yeatsians internationally are, and the students of the poetry, the students of Irish poetry living and working in America, they can rarely get the Irish Cuchulainn, the Fianna, they can rarely get the spelling of those names correct. So that was the one bugbear we had, Deanie, to straighten you out on that. And I had to kind of go back cross-referencing and make sure that I was right, that Cuchulainn was spelt in the correct way and that Maeve was spelt correctly, and so on and so forth. Anyway, having said all that, before I go on with the notes, I want to just draw your attention to the book itself. When you first sent me a copy, and I looked at it and I felt, as my own publisher does, she always feels the paperweight. Vincent as book publisher and Mary, they feel the paperweight, they look at the print, they look at how the book's put together, they look at the cover, they look at the blurbs, and then they say, and then Vincent, he's a devil for the spines. You cannot contradict Vincent when he says that spine could be an awful lot better. Isn't that true, Vincent? That's it now. So anyway, Walking Naked under a yellow rain slicker. Fantastic cover, really beautiful. And I'm going to take the liberty, I was going to read a Yeats poem in any event, but of course the Walking Naked is taken from Yeats's famous poem called A Coat. I made my coat a song covered with embroideries out of old mythologies from heel to throat. But the fools caught it, wore it in the world's eyes as though they wrought it. Song, let them take it, for there's more enterprise in walking naked. So, my first meeting, as I said, with Deanie was when you had received the Loughran scholarship. And then she came back a couple of times, more than a couple of times, had one wonderful poetry workshop under Nick Laird, who comes from the north of Ireland but has been living with, who's the one he's married to? She's very famous. Zadie Smith, thank you. And you really got a lot out of that workshop. I think there would have been about 12 people in it. Then she subsequently came back again and had a wonderful, wonderful workshop, which was very packed, if my memory serves me correctly. Everybody wanted to be at the late Evan Boland's workshop in the Yeats building, so there was fighting for spaces. And again, Evan said, I don't mind really how many of you come in, but I can only deal with 10 or 12 speaking voices. The rest of you will have to sit in total silence and listen. Isn't that correct? And she stuck religiously to that rule. But you got an awful lot out of that poetry workshop with the late Evan, whose memory we still mourn. Our friendship, my friendship, I should say, with Deanie, mainly by email and letters, has survived not just COVID, but the many ups and downs of my own family life. All the romantic stuff, Joe, you know, all the fights that didn't end up with pans flying across the kitchen, you know, all the you're right and I'm wrong stuff. It survived. And then as the next generation of the Macbreen grandchildren began to arrive, Deanie made friends with my son Peter and his wife Elaine, who in quick succession gave birth to Moya, Patrick and Maeve. And Deanie got together with some of her friends in Connecticut and she put together the most beautiful baby blanket, every colour under the sun, and the Deanie blanket arrived. I can't remember which of them it was for. I think it was actually for Moya. And then it was passed on to Patrick and then subsequently to Maeve. And to this day, the Deanie blanket, which is falling apart as you can imagine at this stage, but they fight, those three children fight going to bed for Deanie's blanket. Now that's the truth. They
I
fight for
remember.
Deanie's blanket. It's my blanket. It's not your blanket. It's Deanie's blanket. Anyway, that's the story about the Deanie blanket. So where do we go from here? Jerry. Jerry accompanied Deanie on her... Pardon? Time. Is it time for me to shut up? No, I want to tell this one, and then I will stop, because it's not fair. Jerry accompanied Deanie to the Hawkswell Theatre for the morning lectures, for the after 11 o'clock break lectures. He would attend the coffee break, and he would sit there totally patient, and he never ever opened his mouth and said, those lectures by these Yeatsians from all over the world were right over my head. They were so dense, nobody could possibly understand what they're talking about. Never once did Jerry ever complain. So 10 out of 10 to now the poor dead Jerry. And to everybody who got to know him. The Sligo Yeats Friends will be out on Monday in the Glasshouse Hotel to another reading that Deanie will be giving there. And just before I finish and get down off this perch, I'm just going to read a little bit of my own blurb, just a little bit. The power and the courage in the poetry of Deanie Rowan Blank's first full collection of poetry comes as no surprise to this reader. The first section, The Pulse of Grief, deals with love, illness, loss, and ultimately death, without a trace of sentimentality. We were talking about this earlier. Mostly written in a narrative style that exactly suits the story of a doomed marriage, the temptation to depression is wisely put aside, and we are told, when relentless disease quashed his spirit, there was no possible means of repair. He chose the kindest release, and took it, freed himself from pain, endless despair. Her gratitude to Yeats and the Yeats International Summer School knows no bounds. Between the famed mountains of Benbulben and Knocknarea, I met and recognised a true fellow poet who would one day gift the world with her poetry. May she persist and thrive. Deanie.
Wow. Thank you. You guys are wonderful, Mary and Vincent and you all, and thank you for being here. It's fabulous. Because I'm a success in my 85th years when the book was published. I'm just going to add about the title. Yeats obviously had a lot to do with it, but also I added Under a Yellow Rain Slicker because I needed some protection. I don't really want to walk around naked. So it's sort of tells a lot, but it keeps a lot not. So just to, but I'm keeping myself mostly covered. Anyway, let me start with an Irish poem about, oh, I'm so bad, pages here, 54. I've written a few Irish poems from my time here. My dad was Irish. He never lived in Ireland. You'll learn about that right now. Blackbirds make me smile. This is from section 1 of the book titled The Pulse of Grief. Blackbirds make me smile. Early in our courtship, he told of fondness for those black-clad creatures. The contrariety of blackbirds attracted him. He saw their beauty, admired their wily ways, enjoyed their notoriety. Mythic winged things of ill omen, raucous scavenging strumpets, clever, not simply black, iridescent as an oil-slick in sun, silver, green, gold, blue. When light dims, ravens turn velvet, ebony hue. Crows cause mimic sounds of a new babe's babble. So he was a bit of a rascal himself, a bow tie kind of guy with flair for demonic wit. Students, colleagues, awed by his art, Socratic irony. So no grand paradox. his favorite refrains, folk lyrics. If I were a blackbird, I'd leave all the sorrow behind. When the toxin of mortal disease told, knowing the denouement, he chose to close the cover of the tome before him. That was my first husband, Joe. Joy and the Ache of Being. On listening to Dvorak, his string quintet in G major, opus 77, this quintet draws me to the rare drama of a double bass that reveals the full scheme of life. For it is not only violins, cellos, and violas that make exquisite chamber music. Add a big bassist from Charles Mingus to Kuskiewski, and you've got cliffhanging, lion taming, dark nights, neon lights, and flaming skies. The brisk, vigorous first movement evolves into a light-hearted fire of life, and I am fueled with desire to grasp the future with gratitude and sufferance for a brim-filled platter, creme brulee, sour lemon, Honeycrisp apples, sea salt, thyme, ginger, pears, pepper, pomegranate, and more. In the second movement, I find irresistible the duality of life's gentle touches and hard rock stumbles, sensible sounds that reflect fundamental lessons in survival. As the slower movement opens, always I feel loss of those I've loved. They no longer hold me, tease me, annoy me, play with me. I know they loved me. There can be no greater gift than this remembrance. Always a bittersweet mist of tears appears, always on listening to these lyrical tones. Finally, I am comforted by the impassioned fourth movement. The first violin soars to celebrate life richly lived, like breaking a fortune cookie and finding my fortune. Open another fortune cookie. I have a long poem titled Naked Echoes. And let me see if I can pick out a couple of pieces from it. It reflects the day in the life of a woman. Guess who? Starts at 8 a.m. 7 a.m. I slip out the townhouse door, dash through drizzles, over puddles to grab the Times. I feel the echoes of dawn's rain. I hear echoes of past pain. We did the mild, wild thing last night, not like early days when my body was an orchestra for Tchaikovsky's Pathétique, when it reached the third movement's brilliant climax, when it made us late to parties, but rich as Bach's air on the G-string. Matt's knowing hands. I hang his wet rain slicker in the hall. Chilean leather sandals, au naturel, unshackled, if a bit dotty. My husband, in this poem I call him Matt, but it's Jerry. Don't tell anybody. Fears a lawn man may pass by. Still, these parades through the place please him. Let's see, let's go on to later in the day. Here's one at 5 p.m. The phone. It's Jan. Best friends. We've been calling over martinis. Talk of his asthma, her headaches, his prostate, what the president did this time. How was Santa Fe? Can we manage to meet before fall? 40-some years, yet again, we crack up recalling the lamp cord I tripped over in that tawdy Isla Mirada motel on the way to Key West in the rented red convertible. Met those two, my friends, complete my arboretum, persimmon, ironwood, balsa, Jan, the teak timber. I reap echoes of love, I embrace, I seek to generate love with grace. We leave the affair later than planned. This night, my middle back in a mild migraine-like pain, I anticipate cool sheets. An encore shower unties knots in my spine. Memories cloud around me. Really, rememories. Nothing remains the same in the rememberings. sadnesses, madnesses, stings, exhilarations, fears, a, cas- a cascade of failures with family, with friends, my mingled kin drawn together by love, amorous and kindred, fated to part by broken expectations, by death. Memories, like stars, endure, and contrary to the cosmos, brighten in the re-remembering. So on to the memorial music. Enchanted that evening, my tears spilled into sweat of the steaming August chamber performance at Music Mountain. So I'm thinking this. Yes, there must be the same Dvorak quintet. Yes, the one in G major. Pity I must miss it. Yes, Patsy Cline's Crazy, Sweet Dreams. Surely Bach's Air on the G string. Amused at the fizzling naked body, my fizzling naked body, under the slicker this morning, I lust for vanilla junket. I'll find a recipe tomorrow. No, I'll wake to the grim, gnawing ache of age. Is my future behind me? No. Frailty is not this woman's name. Dark musings will not dominate my life. Yet, like Sisyphus, it is tricky to navigate this absurd road. I'll explain that in a minute. I know the echoes of my story. I know the echoes of my glory. My first husband, Joe, had a stroke in addition to his Parkinson's near the end. And we were driving to Cape Cod, and he said, okay, you be the navigator. So, let me tell you a little bit about family. I told you about my dad. This one is about my mom. Cooking cream of wheat. Silk milk swirls, stove light glows gold and ice blue on waves the sheen of new snow. With heat beneath, a sweet smell rises. Foam breaks out as alabaster grains mix to thick, drifting memories. I see you, flirting flapper in the tarnished silver frame. You were the eldest, left coveted classes to help when your father could no longer climb into that bituminous pit. I saw you, sublimely posed in another frame beside your white-trousered groom. You wrung clothes with the old Maytag after work, in the cellar, in the night. You washed stains of my pubescent embarrassment, said when sex was best, thought yourself big-boned, became bent, shrunk. That night, you woke in fright. It's okay, it's me, I'm your daughter. You who could play a saxophone, balance books, stretch a ground beef pound like loaves and fishes. Here now, cooking cream of wheat. I did Beneath the Rowan Tree. Did I do that one? No. Oh, gee. Oh, 65. Okay. The Rowan Tree. We know about the Rowan Tree.
We do.
One of my favorite poems by this poet I know, Joan McBreen, has to do with the mountain oak. And in fact, I have it.
Mountain ash.
Mountain ash. I have it framed in my apartment. Beneath the Rowan Tree. I drank a pint of stout with my dead dad in Sligo's McGlynn's last night. He was singing with the boys just like he did when I was a tot. He could do bawdy tunes with his brothers. On Saturday nights, on Sunday mornings, tenor hymns. He never saw this land of his fathers, never saw much of his father either. A lone boy, he drank milk fresh from cows on the farm where he boarded. He told of new cow pies warming his bare boy's feet on frosty winter mornings. This may be why, when in the company of these critters I crow, mellow cows and their noble beaux, bulls, gentle in courtship, the cow always wills when. Their young dart about, with eyes big to the outdoors. Cows give wet kisses, warm milk rhythmically steamed to stainless steel pails. It is their bad fortune to be unable to bat flies from their eyes, or scratch their behinds in the field, unless near to a rowan tree. They, though common, they are Irish, these Joycean, silky kine, innocent nannies to humankind. My dad did not cast a cold eye on death. I promised him my ashes also would be sprinkled with wind, warbler, and buzzing bee beneath the rowan tree, in view of a grazing cow or two. So let me do a couple of more of my Irish poems. Since you guys are Irish, and I love it. I had so many good times here. Clear west, and it sort of looks like waves, sort of. Clear west. When the air is right clear here, I hear gulls of Galway Bay. When I let my eyes' curtains slip low, I see seabirds sail over Moar cliffs. I see them stand like centurions, face to wind. I see them cruise over Dingle's castles as mist moves through mountain passes, settles in cradles of Connor's crevasses, until hard rain gathers, grows mountain rivers, driven to descend in cymbal crashes of Beethoven's symphonies. I see seagulls glide over stone-boxed meadows where a confetti of sheep slow dance in soft rain to rhythm of chomp, chomp, chomp. When the air is right clear here, this is what I hear, this is what I see to the east from my wood deck overlook on Long Island Sound. Something about Sligo. We're getting to the end, folks. Okay, and this one is something about Sligo. The epigraph for this one is, this summer school changes lives. Some things happen nowhere else but here. And Professor Meg Harper from the University of Limerick, director of the 56 years Yeats International Summer School in Sligo in 2015. That may have been the last year I was there. So, something about Sligo. Sligo's secret manifested during my stay in Ireland's northwest coast town. Someone said a summer school student challenged the curse, stole a stone from bloodthirsty Queen Maeve's grave cairn atop Knocknarea. On the return, he fell down the steep slope, broke his right rider's wrist. No doubt the she, otherworldly beings, fairies, benign, unless angered by a mortal's foolish deed. All 26 of Yeats' plays were performed that Sligo week. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Many al fresco, to celebrate his 150th. As I watched The Land of Heart's Desire made real, when the performance dramatized the clash of the pagan and Christian values. Who goes with them must drive through the same storm, the hurtling foam. The wind blows out at the gates of the day. The wind blows over the lonely of heart. At that very moment, and this is true, raw wet winds erupted, roared, and waves crested, crashed onto Ross's Point strand as the innocent bride of the play was lured away. Not to worry, for Sligo town rests between Yeats' bare Ben Bulben's head and Knocknarea. With big-shouldered bearing, these buttes magically protect the enchanted valley they embrace. Yes, some things happen nowhere else but here. Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay. Well, I'll tell you. The Men I Married. I don't remember my own poems, but this one I do. It's very short. It's titled The Men I Married. To those who know me well, this will come as no surprise. To you, this is what I'll tell. Two bright guys with tight thighs. So, I didn't get a chance to talk about Jerry that much, but...
There he is.
Yeah. Do you want a light poem or a heavy poem?
You said to do a sexy one.
Oh, the sexy one. Yeah. It's a pretty early poem. post-menopausal bone scan. Her pelvis perfectly aligned, arms hugged to hips. She lay on slab as the scanner had its way with her. This broad's bones weren't so bad, but one day she'd turn up her toes. Hence, lying there, she began to plan her own memorial. Body bones roasted, hedonistic habits toasted, a soupçon of quips in the wake of something sober, Violetta's en grandio duet, a grand denouement. Cindered remains scattered beneath a beech tree on a breezy, blooming day, and a crusty crony, dodging bone dust, might be heard to say, "Can't deny she was a great piece of ash." Thank you guys so much. Love you all.
Yeah, this song is written by Sting. It was in 1987. There was a conflict in Nicaragua. And one engineer, American engineer, was supporting community trying to give electricity. And he was shot by the Contras. So he was dead. So it was a big trouble for United States because United States was supporting the Contras, the Contras killing American. So Sting wrote the song to talk about this. No? The song is fragile or fragility in Spanish, fragilidad. Mañana ya la sangre no estará. Al caer la lluvia se la llevará acero y piel, combinación tan cruel. Pero algo en nuestras mentes quedará. Un acto así terminará con muchas vidas y nada más. Nada se logra con violencia, ni se logrará. Y aquellos que han nacido en un mundo así, no olviden su fragilidad. On and on, the rain will fall like tears from the sky, like tears from the sky. On and on, the rain will say how fragile we are, how fragile we are. Lloras tú, ay, lloro yo, y el cielo también, y el cielo también. Lloras tú, ay, lloro yo, qué fragilidad, qué fragilidad. On and on the rain will fall like tear from the sky, like tear from the sky. On and on the rain will say, qué fragilidad, how fragile we are, qué fragilidad. Gracias, thank you.
Ira Gonzalez, thank you so much. Yes, thank you for that beautiful ending to a reading. Our thanks to Joan, for your agent, Deanie, for this tour, I know. And absolutely. And to you, Deanie, thank you so much for reading for us here this afternoon. Much appreciated. And enjoy the remainder of the tour. Yeah, thank you very much. Deanie Blank, thank you.